Hello and welcome to Sandwiched on Gypsy Radio. I'm your host, Becky Nelson, and it's been a few weeks since we did a Freedom Friday, so thank you for your patience as I work through some family stuff. My house guest actually is back in Minnesota now, safely, um, and my studio's back online. Just getting a couple things worked out post election season for the primary, so let's talk a little bit about the lineup for today. Today, I want to just share a little bit of politics stuff. I met like Mike Lindell a couple weeks ago. We had a election stories. Also, want to talk a little about some gun right Supreme Court rulings that came through. Some women's rights strategies for legislators on the right side of history here. And of course, March Madness illnesses, including measles and uh, norovirus or whatever this is people are going through. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. My name is Becky Nelson. This is my podcast, Sandwiched on Gypsy Radio. I'm your host. I'm your sponsor. I don't make any money off this. I just merely do this because I like to get the word out. And with social media being so weird these days, it's just ideal to have your own platform. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Got to meet Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, frank speech, huge advocate of President Trump, as well as election integrity, which is a very important platform in my life. I love to learn more about the data and the influences of election integrity. So, Mike Lindell spoke. I went to the DuPage Airport. It was kind of an interesting setup. We were in a studio. So, unbeknownst to me, I thought I was just going to like a meet and greet. Very beautiful background of the Statue of Liberty in red, white, and blue, which just really definitely put it into perspective for me. Mike only talked about politics for like 6 minutes. The majority of his story is about his drug addiction at a younger age, middle 20s to 30s. And he wrote a book, What Are the Odds? I haven't bought it yet. I took the liberty of just giving him a donation towards his legal fees because everybody is suing Mike Lindell. Just that's just what they do to the Republicans that stand up. But I do want to get his book, What Are the Odds? From crack addict to CEO. Mike Lindell is a goal getter. He's a fighter. His perseverance is fascinating, and his story is stark amazing for anyone who's battling anything in life. So go out and get that book, What Are the Odds? Or look up Mike Lindell on Frank Speech, and I think you'd be happy with what you see. The elections were Tuesday. I was an election judge here in Sandwich. Turnout was slow but steady, as they said on the news. I can't disagree with that. I think we put through about 300 and some ish voters over here in the Sandwich precincts of 2, 3, and 4. Um, one of the things I want to talk about the election is the ballots. Our ballot in Illinois had some candidates on it that were not even viable candidates. We saw Nikki Haley, we saw Chris Christie, we saw Ron DeSantis, and all of those people unequivocally dropped out or suspended their races. And so I asked the Board of Elections a few weeks ago after I didn't get an answer that I was looking for from one of the county clerks. Why are these people still on our ballot? And the response I got was that the campaign has the responsibility of contacting the state to have them removed from the ballot. So I want to throw some statistics at you. Donald J. Trump got just under 500,000 votes. Okay. Ron DeSantis, the non viable candidate, ran with about 89,000 votes in the state of Illinois. So 89,000 people were misinformed about Ron DeSantis' status on the ballot, which is mind boggling to me. If you're going to vote, at least know the viable candidates or ask somebody. And then you had little Miss Nikki Haley with 9,000 ish votes, which was kind of hilarious because we've been in Never Nikki status since January. Well, I've been in Never Nikki status since she announced it, but I loved it when Rand Paul came out with, hashtag Never Nikki. And there's reasons for that because she has ties to certain elite oligarchs that we just don't need to play with anymore. So at the end of the day, Trump got the 100% of the viable and valid votes in Illinois, coming out just under 500,000 voters, which I think is a pretty damn good number for a man who has 91 indictments, haha, and continues to get trampled by his civil and constitutional rights by these AGs that are funded by the Soros Foundation as well as the left. And it's embarrassing to look at that number and then see that Okay, Joe Biden got about 629,000 votes in Illinois. But it's embarrassing because I believe that our state is split down the middle, and it's very hard to watch and try to ask people to justify why. The left and the right are very divisive, and it's sad. I actually witnessed somebody with special needs who came to vote, but when he voted for three presidents. And then he tried to put it through the tabulator, and I was in charge of the tabulator for a couple of stints. And when I was in charge of the tabulator, it's kind of a boring job. So I'd be like, "Welcome to the tabulator. Put your ballot right here and push on it. And you're looking for number, blah, blah, blah." And I would try to make it a congratulations moment for them voting. Well, this poor guy, his ballot kept coming back. He's pushing it in, it's coming back. Well, it's not going to accept three presidents, right? So I took it out and I was going to consult with a Democrat judge, but nobody got off their butts to come over. So I just talked to the kid for just a second and said, "You can only choose one." And he was like, "Really?" "Yeah, we can only choose one." And he was there with a caregiver or a parent or a handler. And I said to that person, I said, "You can actually help him vote. You just have to fill out a voter assist form." And she said, and I quote, "He knows what he's doing." Hmm. Okay. Well, he was marking more than one president, and he was marking presidents that weren't viable. But whatever, I digress. At the end of the day, we need to educate our voters. And if our voters are going to the polls, they need to know which candidates are viable. And I don't really care who you vote for. I just want to make sure you understand who's viable on the ballot. And we need to hold our Illinois State Board of Elections and the campaigns accountable to send that letter and say, "Hey, take your person off the ballot, please," because that's confusing 89,000 voters and 9,000 voters if you look at it. So if those candidates hadn't been on the ballot, would they have undervoted Trump? I don't know. But would they have voted for Trump? Possibly. So we're looking at about a split between five and 600,000 voters in Illinois that turned out to vote for Republican candidates, and we need more voter base. So, fun fact: your 17-year-old can vote on November 5th as long as they're going to be 18 by November 5th, and so they can register over the summer and get ready to go. And if they're busy 17-year-olds, don't hesitate to get them a vote by mail ballot. Just make sure that you know that the ballot will be most secure if you hand walk it to your clerk's office and put it into their secure ballot box. I would not recommend using USPS. We have seen so many examples of poor mail execution, not even including election paperwork. But um, at the end of the day, it's just most important to get it back to your clerk's office. Is that election interference? No. I believe that that is holding yourself accountable to get your ballot back to the source instead of relying on a third party vendor. So anyway, the election went off without a hitch. There was no issues throughout the nation, no broken pipes, no gas leaks, no nefarious individuals coming into polls and promising to blow up the place. So we did pretty good. Will November be the same? I don't know. I have concerns about November, and we'll talk about that later in another podcast. But just keep praying for our elections and the people that keep those elections integral and efficient. And I too will keep praying for my local officials too. Local wins. James Marter pulled out a win with about 28,000 votes, I believe, as of right now, against Charlie Kim. Charlie Kim was a registered Democrat for years. So everybody was like, "Nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing the flip this time. We're sticking with Marter. We know that he's lost two other times, but at the end of the day, he's steadfast, he is vigilant, and he's persistent. And we're going to get James Marter to Congress, and he is going to become part of the Freedom Caucus, which is going to help us in the long run. So go James Marter for 14th congressional district. Jed Davis, of course, he was running unopposed. He got a bunch of votes. I'm so excited for Jed. I think he's going to blow Heidi out of the water this fall. And then, of course, my dear friend Brian DeBolt, he got the most votes in Kendall County as a Kendall County board member candidate. He's being reelected. Brian is a good, solid fella. We need him in Kendall County. He's going to go up against some Democrats in the fall. So put your head and your heart into Brian. If you see anything that's going on, fundraisers or rallies, get there. And most of all, just give him the encouragement to keep moving forward. So that's kind of the election in a nutshell for me. I didn't watch a lot of the race statistics. To be honest with you, it's just kind of all a blur right now. I'm glad the primary is over. We can focus on family and Easter and move into summer. One of the things I want to say I'm very proud of is every single one of my kids voted this time around. And because I put my heart into this for not just them, but their legacy, grandkids, great grandkids. It just made my heart very happy that they exercised their constitutional and patriotic duty to vote. So thank you to my kids. I love you very much. Um, so we want to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court ruling for an illegal who was carrying a gun in 2020 in the city of Chicago. So there was an illegal who was carrying a gun in 2020 in the city of Chicago. And he didn't have any credentials to carry a gun. He just was carrying a gun. So he got arrested for some other charge, but they did have gun charges on there. And he took his case all the way to the Supreme Court. It took 4 years. And the Supreme Court ruled in his favor. So I want to talk a little bit about this ruling super fast. So let me give you some background. The judge herself is Sharon Johnson Coleman. She's a U.S. District Judge, and she was charged with the responsibility of ruling on the basis of Heriberto Carbal Flores's arrest in 2020 for violating a federal law which prohibits undocumented immigrants from possessing a gun. So basically, Flores contends that he received and used a handgun solely in for self protection and protection of his property during a time of documented civil unrest in the spring of 2020. We all know what that was. That was the BLM riots. They started in May and they continued through like the end of August. And the Northern District Judge wrote in her ruling that the ruling sets up a potential Supreme Court case to determine the extent of Second Amendment rights for an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States. The High Court has issued a series of rulings over the past 15 years. Quote, Congress would have to be a little bit more powerful here because there's no question that the Constitution applies to people who are not here illegally. Okay, so it says here, the former federal prosecutor Sharon Wu says the problem here is you need to draw the statute more narrowly. Okay, so I take that back. That's not the statement from Sharon. Justice Clarence Thomas says in the court's majority opinion regarding one gun rights case, emphasized that the Second Amendment's protections extend to individual conduct, creating a presumption that applies regardless of legal status. However, Wu suggested that Congress could clarify the law to explicitly prohibit migrants from possessing firearms. So the Supreme Court is pushing this back to Congress, which is kind of interesting to me because at the end of the day, the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. Now, first and foremost, they're trying to say that he was legally carrying. Well, no, you weren't because you were an illegal and it doesn't say how you got this gun. If you're an illegal, then you should not have been able to do a background check and get a gun. So lots of questions, lots of holes in this story that I haven't had a chance to read on to. But at the end of the day, this fella is being allowed to have the charges dropped that he was, unlawfully carrying a firearm. Will that help other Supreme Court cases? I believe it might. So this is going to be something to watch. I believe that probably this is going to go up the chain again, and I'm sure that Governor Pritzker will get involved, and he'll have his AG Kwame Raoul come in and be like, no, 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 nobody gets guns in Illinois, like nobody, right? Like we're just not going to get our guns. So, hold steadfast on your Second Amendment right. Governor Pritzker is overreaching. I believe the Supreme Court will find that in the very near future. It's a very frustrating topic for many. But remember, we are not here with our Second Amendment rights for the sake of killing ducks and deer. We are here to protect ourselves from tyranny. And tyranny did occur 4 years ago, and tyranny continues to occur on a small level within the state of Illinois. But at the end of the day, if you're going to let illegal migrants carry their guns, then I'll keep mine, they can keep theirs, and we'll all move on our way, right? So speaking of the migrants, there is a measles outbreak in Chicago. There's about 18 cases right now. And boy, if you ask someone on the left about that measles outbreak, they're going to find, patient A, who is like an anonymous patient from Indiana who sought measles treatment at 5 different locations. Well, they're the carrier and they're not a migrant. That's the story they want to give you. But Governor Pritzker went on record to say the migrants were denying the vaccine and that the migrants at Pilsen Center had the outbreak. So I don't understand why the left doesn't listen to their own leadership. It's like super crazy like that. But so the migrants are experiencing some measles outbreak. Many of us have a March Madness of illness, basically stemming from fevers and coughs to a little bit of diarrhea and nausea. We're all kind of just fighting through the change in the weather. And 4 years ago, of course, this locked us down, wear a mask, don't leave your house, don't see your loved ones in the nursing home, cancel funerals, cancel ball games, don't let your kids go to school, let them learn online, without any oversight. And we did it. We did it for a while. And then many of us said, nah, this isn't working for me. I'm sorry. You're still offering baseball games and St. Patrick's Day bars are filled. And we went into Mardi Gras and we went back to NFL and all the things that went on. You allowed elite oligarchs to roam this nation without any restraint. And yet you didn't want me to go out and mow my grass, go pound sand. I'm going back to my life. And that is the attitude we need to have when this comes around again. Because guess what, folks? It will. The measles outbreak in Chicago is being mitigated. They are vaccinating the children now. But of course, some of those children have been to the schools, and I have inside sources that tell me that kids were sick from that particular lack of containment. But they did go ahead and lock down and quarantine the Pilsen neighborhood shelter immediately. And so I give kudos to the health department in Chicago for seeing the error and remedying that error so that they don't have a major outbreak. Um, at the end of the day, I actually made a trip to Midway last Friday to take my cousin back to the airport, and I witnessed what the Resurrection Project was talking about when they said, "quote The undocumented that cannot seek asylum are going to have to figure it out." So there's a gal that works for the Resurrection Project. She is the actual immigration director, and she seems like a very nice girl. I love watching her videos because she has a great sense of humor and she's just a smiley little thing. Her name is Erin Dawn, I believe. She said that the 60% that are not going to qualify for asylum, which is going to make them qualify for citizenship in the near future, the undocumented ones, the ones that don't check the boxes, they're going to have to figure it out. So I go to Midway Airport and I'm on Cicero Avenue and the traffic is backed up like quarter mile and I'm afraid I'm going to get rear-ended in the right lane, right? Because I haven't gotten into the turn lane yet to go to Cicero. And I'm like, what is going on? This is a lot of traffic. It's like 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning. It's not usually like this. Well, I get to the corner to make my turn, and there is a total of 8 different street vendors, not panhandlers. These are vendors. They have stuff in their hands they're trying to sell to the people in their cars, and it's causing gridlock. And I happen to look over and I see a little baby in a stroller on the median. The median on Cicero Avenue is maybe about 4 feet wide. It begs the question, if a car were to jump that median and then hit that stroller, would the baby inside be injured? I mean, are we looking at a DCFS infraction here? I don't know. I didn't make the call, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a questionable thing. And then on my way out of the airport, I witnessed a 6-year-old selling candy bars amidst truck drivers on Cicero Avenue at the turn to get on I-55. This was disgusting, and this left me pissed off because that woman at the Resurrection Project is telling these people to figure it out, and they are pimping out children to sell candy bars at the intersection of Cicero and I-55. I have footage if you'd like to see it. You can clearly see this child weaving in and out of semi trucks at a red light. There is absolutely no regard for this child's safety. I'm sorry. And I believe that the Chicago police should be arresting these people. This is unacceptable. Vendors on the streets, we've seen that for years. Are they getting permits? I doubt it. But we've seen vendors on the street corners for years. We have rarely seen, other than on Mother's Day, you might be able to get some flowers on the corner of Cicero and 55. We've rarely seen street vendors going car to car. Enough is enough. This is not a lifestyle. Figure it out. This is not acceptable. Figure it out. Your 6-year-old should not be selling candy bars like he's going on a Washington, D.C. trip to truck drivers at the corner of I-55 and Cicero Avenue. If you agree with this, then you need to have your head examined. Full stop. You need to have your head examined. I didn't call any of these in. I did get video footage. I did share it with a couple of my Chicago friends, and I was like, oh my God, are you guys doing anything about this? And they say that they're just in an echo chamber, that nobody on the council believes that it's happening, or they're just ignoring it. It's an election season. Everybody's tiptoeing on eggshells. And at the end of the day, 6-year-old boy is vulnerable to being grabbed by somebody who's in a car. Okay. He had his back turned to what appeared to be his father or his handler or his caregiver. Um, he was weaving in and out of cars, so that father, handler, caregiver definitely was not keeping an eye on him. He was within 10 or 15 feet of him. I shot, yes, maybe, but when he's weaving in and out of cars, no, no, absolutely not. They're so hyper focused on making a dollar. They're penny pound foolish. My sister uses that terminology, and I love it. They're penny pound foolish, and they are putting children at risk. This is the part of this illegal invasion that I cannot get behind. The 40% that can seek asylum, that can truly start their citizenship, fine. They're here. There's nothing we can do about it. They already have the documents in place. They've got court dates. Give them their work permits, get their asses out there working, get them paying taxes, get them off of my payroll immediately. The 60% that cannot seek asylum, that cannot meet the documentation status. And there's reasons for that. And you can look it up online. It's all out there. I won't go into grave detail, but you have to understand. I did a podcast a few months back about it, so you might be able to find it. But you have to understand that the 60% that cannot seek asylum have done something to compromise their status. Okay. Those people need to go home. You need to go home right now. And I truly believe that President Trump will make that happen when he is elected in November. I don't believe that Joe Biden will. I don't believe that Congress will. They're already bartering over $1.2 trillion and throwing money in for the border and all this nonsense. Forget it. They're not on the right side of history here. 60% of these people need to go. 60% of these people are going to start to get into our drug and gang cartels. 60% of these people are going to start breaking into your garages so they can bring shit back to the streets and sell it. 60% of the people are going to be the ones raping your college students. In the 60% of the people, there's going to be a population that is murdering. You're going to have people impregnate people to be able to have anchor babies and get their citizenship one way or the other. At the end of the day, these 60% are the ones that need to go. The 40%, the families, the people that are, willing to make it, they need to connect with sponsors, church leaders, NGOs, and get employed, start paying taxes out of their checks, and get off my payroll, period. I love you. I think you'll be great here. Do your thing. But you know what? Having your child sell candy bars on the corner of 55 and Cicero Avenue and is not American. And you need to get your shit together, period. That is where I'm at with this. Last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about contrast of visits to Chicago. I went into the city 2 Sundays ago for my aunt's 75th birthday party. I had the privilege of going to Soul City Church. This church is located on Adams Avenue. It's a beautiful facility. It's a 3-story building. Had some additions put on in the past couple of years. But they have done some remarkable stuff inside. And the thing that really casted a smile on my face was, there is no shadows. It is a bright building. There are windows and the sun shines in. And when the sun is not shining, there's beautiful lighting. All the paneling and the painting is all very bright and whimsical. There's a very serene feeling. It doesn't have the same godly church feeling that our churches out in the suburbs have. Well, the ones that I've been through anyhow. Um, but it is a serene feeling, a very passive and relaxing feeling. And I just loved every piece of it. It was the architectural design, the decor, everything was so beautiful. So if you have a chance to go to church in Chicago, go to Soul City Church. We actually went to the birthday party there in one of their community rooms in the building, and it was great. In contrast, we went in and we went out. We didn't mess around. We went into the church and parked and went in, did our thing, and then went out. In contrast, my son attended St. Patrick's Day celebration downtown and got to see the river turn green, sent me a beautiful picture of the river and Trump Tower in the background, which made my heart happy. But the night before he was going to go, we don't talk every day. He's an adult, so I try to keep out of his business as much as possible. But, mom things come up and I want to call him. And I said, "What are you doing this weekend?" And he said, "Oh, well, I'm going into the city for St. Patrick's Day." And of course, I had the gasp because I'm, a little cautious about big crowds and a little bit more conservative on my track and, where I go and what I do. And I kind of like went, "Oh gosh, why are you doing that? You're just going to stress me out. I'm going to be worried about you." And he stopped me and he said, "Mom, you can't live your life in fear," which is literally what I've taught my kids. So I don't know why I didn't expect that to come out of his mouth. And he said, "We're going as a group. We're going to be fine." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay. I'm going to be okay with this. You're going to go as a group. Yes. You're not going to drink too much so you fall in the river. No. You're going to text me when you get there. You're going to text me when you're on your way home. Yes. Okay." And he followed all those steps. Trust and open transparency with your kids is so important, whether they're at the age of 6, 16, 26, 36, 46. And I do believe that the families that continue to talk and battle out their differences and love each other at the kitchen table are the ones that will stand tall during this chaotic time in our lives. My son is a very patriotic young man. And he still enjoys doing things that, some of us feel are a little bit risky. And he did go into the city just like we went into the city. He took the train, we took our truck. He came out of the city with a group. We came out of the city with, our own family, and everybody got home safe. I do truly believe that there are good things that you can experience and introduce your families to, and there are things that you just want to avoid. And he chose to go into the city for that celebration, that festivity. He sent me that picture. He made sure he stayed safe. We have to let our kids be trusted and we have to give them those channels to go out and do what they want to do. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that there are bad actors out there. So we're going to worry no matter what. And that's where I'm at. I'm just grateful that he got back safe. We got back safe. And 50 miles away is just fine with me. So, wrapping up today's podcast, March Madness has been a little crazy for individuals who have started to get sick just from the change of season. We're seeing a lot of people who have sore throats and fevers and things like that. Just do your vitamin C, stay home when you're sick. Try not to get into big crowds, social distance. Make sure that you're seeing your doctor if you're not feeling well, because 4 years ago, this turned into a pandemic, and I think it was just a pneumonia or a flu bug that just got way over inflated. And we need to be very steadfast and take care of ourselves and not allow for tyranny, because we have freedoms and we need to exercise those freedoms every day. Every day is a gift. So we need to take that day, embrace it, and enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I will be tuning out now. Motivation Monday comes up pretty quickly. So hopefully you'll tune in for Motivation Monday. Have yourself a great weekend. And remember, stay free and enjoy everything just like every day is a gift, right? Have a good day.